Top 5 Gaming Podcast, Episode 9. We're the podcast that talks about video games, and we're obsessed with the number 5, so we talk about everything 5s. KC.
Alright, what's our topic?
Breath of the Wild we're doing today. Did we go into Star Wars?
No.
Were we Star Wars?
You're a star to me.
Okay, nice.
And I'll go to war for you.
Nice. Hey, so you're Casey, I'm Austin. We both played Breath of the Wild. It took forever. This is kind of late coming. When did that game come out? Like March?
Actually, yeah. It was March.
Yeah, I think it was March.
All I know is I'm fucking sick of hearing about the game.
Because I was playing it for so long, every single time Casey and I talked, I'd just start, rattling off what little adventure I went on that day.
Oh, it's not just you, because every fucking news article in the world keeps finding inane shit to talk about with it.
Yeah.
And now there's DLC that no one cares about.
Yeah, I really don't care about the DLC. Sorry, people. Yeah, I watched a whole bunch of videos, people that were, praising it and then, nitpicking the shit out of it, and I don't know. I think
We're going to be direct mirrors of both of those, probably.
Probably. I'll be glad to. So, Casey, we have a top 5 and a bottom 5 for this one. So, this is kind of like a top 5 gaming review. This might be our review sort of format.
Me likey.
Yeah. 5 view. Top 5 view.
Huh.
The top 5 view.
The What the fuck is the
Well, it's a review. Review.
Oh, I get it. Jesus, fuck.
Yeah. So Casey, we have a bottom 5 and top 5 moments, aspects, what have
segments?
you. Yeah. Sections, elements.
Good. I'm glad for that because some of mine are actually lengthy spiels.
Okay, good.
I was afraid it wouldn't count.
Yeah, I didn't even write all that much this time for my notes, and I figured that we're just gonna have a whole bunch of,
crossover.
Yeah, crossover, and then we're gonna probably talk about some big subjects that is associated with this game. Like a lot of people don't like certain aspects or love certain things, so we'll go into that a little bit.
That's fine by me.
Yeah. So, how should we do this? You want to get it started with your worst number 5?
Maybe we should do should we switch between? No, I guess not. Maybe we should do the tops first, just to garner some goodwill before we shit on it.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. All right, yeah, that sounds good. We'll start
Behind
with
the scenes.
Yeah, Casey, you want to give us your top number 5 reason for? Well, not reason, but part, element.
Moment of Breath of the Wild.
Moment.
Number 5. Encountering Farash. I hope that. So help me God, if any of you two motherfuckers try and correct me on any of the shit in this game, I will shit in your cereal.
Oh, and just for everybody, little warning, of course we're going to be spoiling the ever-living shit out of this game. If you haven't played it and you don't want things spoiled for you, please don't listen.
Oh yeah, and one little disclaimer, I played I think it took me 100 hours to beat the game, roughly. How about you?
Yeah, I think I hit 91. 91 was my final.
Yeah, so roughly around the 100-hour mark.
Yeah, and we both beat the game, and we're definitely going to talk about the ending of the game.
You got that right.
All right, so Farash, that was one of those 3 dragons that roam the world or whatever, and this one's the lightning one, right?
Yes, exactly.
Is that the first one you saw?
Yeah, well, I was just about to say, I remember, because, you come to this little crossroads where they're like, hey, you can go to Hateno Village or whatever, or you could go to Kakariko Village, and they're like, you should go to Kakariko, and I was like, fuck off. So I started heading to Hateno.
I'm glad you were role-playing.
Oh, yeah. Link just giving the finger.
Yeah.
But anyway, so to get to Hateno, you have to cross this bridge if you're going the direct route. And I was crossing it at night. And during that little journey, I looked to the right of me and saw this massive flying fucking green dragon in the distance. And I was instantly compelled to try and reach it. And I did reach it. And as I got near it, it secreted some electric orbs that flat out fuck off killed me in one hit.
Oh, I don't think I'd really even been hit with any of those little bulbs.
Well, I did directly fly toward its body on the hang glider.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was neat how that they give you like the little wind boost when you're near them.
Yeah, seriously. I just like, I can remember the wide range of emotions that I experienced when I saw that thing. Like, I was in awe when I first saw it. Then I was starting to shit myself when I saw it coming toward me.
Yeah.
And then after it killed me, I was like, okay, some other time, I will deal with you. And I was excited for that kind of future.
Yeah. Were we on the phone when I first saw one of those things? Or did I just tell you about it after the fact?
I think you told me about it.
Yeah, it was a similar time. Well, I guess I saw it a little bit after you. I think I did Kakariko, and I pronounce it Hateno Village.
I have no idea.
Who knows? So, yeah, as soon as I did that, I was kind of exploring, like, that mountain range that's on the bottom, just below Hateno Village, and I was kind of hanging out on the top of that. And then I saw, like, way, way off in the distance, this, Ferocia or whatever, like, going into one of those pools of water. I was like, what
He was a
in
ferocious
the
son
fuck?
of a bitch.
Yeah. And I didn't figure out what to do with them until very, very late. Like, I think I had 3 or 2 of those. I had to have been 50 or 60 hours into the game, easy, before I figured out to shoot them. And it was just by accident, because one of Ferocia, like, he has multiple areas that he'll go to. One of them is the Snowy Peak area.
Yeah.
And I just so happened to be up in there, and he flew right by me, and I was like, I wonder what happens if I shoot him. And then it made sense after that.
I actually never shot him. Like, by the time I found out what you were supposed to do, I was just like, I'm not doing this.
Oh, really? Yeah. It was kind of dumb when I figured it out, and then I grinded it for upgrading the whatever, the Hylian tunic or the Champion's tunic or whatever.
Right. Well, and I just want to say, like, the one thing, you know what encountering that creature kind of reminded me of?
What?
Remember the first time you saw the Lagiacrus in Monster Hunter?
Oh, yeah, that was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of that same feeling of like, oh my fucking god.
Yeah,
I'm going to have to deal with this one day?
It looks pretty much like the Lagiacrus or whatever.
It's the Lagiacrus in its rave phase where it's like, I'm going to dye my hair green and fly about for a while.
Yeah, and the Lagiacrus shows up in one of the earlier quests just to, like, scare the shit out of new players or whatever. And you're supposed to run away from it, and just like that, you kind of... Well, you didn't run away from it. You heroically went to your death. I was like,
heroically,
soon.
yes.
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
Stubbornly, heroically, whatever you want to say.
Yeah. I was going to say stupidly, but...
Yeah. Did you have anything else that you wanted to say about Ferocia?
I was just going to say, the only reason why it's number 5 is, I mean, in hindsight, it was kind of anticlimactic, largely due to the fact that it, like, unlike the Lagiacrus, it didn't even care that I existed. Like, because of how large it was just like, I'm flying by, see you.
Yeah, did they give much lore about that in the game? I don't remember people really talking about it all that much, which was weird, because they're very visual,
Yeah, I know, right? Like, I think the only lore is that they're a reference to, like, the 3 goddesses from Ocarina of Time.
Oh, okay.
And I don't even know if that's completely true, but I thought I heard something about that. Or at least their names are relative, like, close to the goddesses' names.
I didn't talk to everybody, but I figured that there should be more people that talked about them and told you kind of what you can do, because I can easily see people going through the game and not knowing that you can shoot them for stuff.
Yeah, well, it's not like fucking a plane flying overhead. It's a motherfucking dragon in this world devoid of air-like creatures. So you'd think a lot more people would talk about it daily.
Yeah, definitely. So my number 5 favorite moment that I had in Breath of the Wild was, I told Casey about this, and I don't know, did we talk about this on the podcast? Oh, let me say it. I barely beat the first major test of strength on my first try near Hateno Village or whatever.
Yes.
There was that, like, it was like this little island or whatever. Did we talk about that in the podcast?
Oh, that was awesome. Yeah, we did.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was so much, like, I don't know. I just didn't expect it, and it was my first major test of strength or whatever, and it was like
it
I
was
got
like
to my
that
like
Dark
last
Souls.
weapon,
Nice.
barely beat him.
Well, and it's like that Dark Souls feeling, like those. Well, at least like the first trial of strength is, because you're trying to analyze this thing's many movements,
Yeah,
figure out its tells. It can wallop you for massive damage with just one hit.
seriously. Yeah, so that first encounter was crazy, and then pretty much the rest of the major tests or any test of strength was kind of a joke after that.
But it was the first time that was like the real, like, memorable one.
Yeah. And like we both did this where we both got like a level or 60 damage weapons and stuff like that, like those really high end guardian weapons.
Yeah.
And I stored it in my house or whatever pretty much the whole game.
Fun fact, guys, I didn't know that you could actually have a house in this game until Austin told me long after I stopped playing.
Oh yeah, we'll be talking about houses.
Oh, okay. Shit.
But it's alright. Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was pretty neat. And it was just like one of the true like gaming tests I felt like I had or whatever, because people talked about this game being really hard and people dying a lot, and it didn't really happen to me hardly at all.
No, you have to actively go out of your way to find hard shit to kill you if you want to die a lot in it.
Yeah, and I guess after you get used to playing Dark Souls combat and stuff like that, it's not terribly difficult to beat those one-on-one battles, or and then if you prepare to do the camps, if you're going to do some camps.
Yeah.
And
one-on-one, almost every enemy in the game is a fucking joke.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's true. But it was cool. I liked it.
Yeah, that is a good one.
All right, Casey, give us that number 5 worst moment. Or
Did you say number 5?
yeah.
Oh, worst. Okay. Sorry, I thought for some reason we were doing all good first.
Oh, we can do all good. That'd be fine.
No. Now I'm good. Now I'm there.
Okay.
My number 5 worst moment was defeating Waterblight Ganon.
Oh, okay. Was that the first one you beat?
Yes, it was the first of the 4 Blight Ganons that I fought, and after I beat him, I looked back at the entirety of the dungeon I just went through and realized how fucking dull the whole experience was.
Yeah.
Just like this lifeless little husk of a dungeon I went through, and to end it all, there was a pathetic fight with an easily exploitable enemy with easily predictable attack patterns that just capped off the entire experience.
Yeah. I agree with that. I thought that I don't even remember much of that. Oh, I remember. That was my second one. The first one that I did was the Gerudo area, and you get that Urbosa's Fury or whatever, that lightning.
Barbosa's Fury.
Yeah, that lightning spell thing. So I couldn't figure out how to hurt him when he was encased in water or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I don't think like he ever even did that for me. Like I was just fucking. I kept like wailing on him so hard, so quick, that all he could do was throw ice cubes at me.
Huh. Or maybe I'm thinking of something else. I might be thinking about another fight. Like, I don't know. I remember I broke one of the fights. Like, I wasn't supposed to do something. I was supposed to send bombs back into somebody. Oh, was that somebody who's trying to like suck stuff in or whatever?
I think that's the Fire Blight Ganon.
Okay, that was the one that I broke. I don't even remember I don't remember the Ganon fights hardly at all.
I will say, in fairness, that you chose the perfect one to start with because you chose the hardest one to start with. So at least it's like a kind of memorable fight.
Yeah.
But I think, and water, like all of them sucked for me. I hated all the fights. I think the Lightning Blight one was the only one that was even mildly enjoyable.
Yeah, you saw me fuck that one up.
Well, yeah, and don't worry, dude. That fight is fucking ridiculous with his fucking instant transportation bullshit.
Yeah, and I couldn't figure out for the life of me what to do. Like that, you had to use magnesis or something to get him to lightning himself.
Yeah, that's the only part of the fight that made it in any way interesting to me was that you had to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, it was neat. I was just not thinking outside the box.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I don't think they telegraph it particularly well. But
Yeah.
just overall, all the boss fights in this game are kind of a fucking joke, and it figures that they happen to be the crowning joke atop every dungeon being a pathetic little hollow experience. So
Yeah, I agree with that assessment, Casey. Well,
bless you.
Thank you. My number 5 worst moment in Breath of the Wild, or aspect of it, was I thought it was a neat mechanic, food cooking, right? Like you gather all these materials, especially in that like plateau area in the beginning of the game. Like
right.
it was
that
kind
gets
of
obnoxious quick though.
yeah. As soon as I like had to cook like a page or two's worth of stuff, it took forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And I wish that I could have just like sped the whole thing up by like cooking multiple meals at once if it was the same kind of meal.
I know, right? Like what the like.
It was just a quality of life thing. Like, I mean, it was really neat in the beginning of the game. And I wish another thing about cooking that I thought could have been better is they didn't really give you recipes.
Yeah,
like,
that was really bizarre, actually.
Like
I am really surprised that your little iPad thing didn't have a cooking compendium.
Yeah. I said that incorrectly. They do give you recipes in the game. Like, there's some diaries that you can read, and then they'll tell you how to make a whole bunch of stuff.
Right, but why isn't it logged down?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, after you make something, or, like, figure out that, once you add one of these stealthy things into your food, it'll make it stealthy. Like, I wish that, I don't know, they had, like, different... the ingredients kind of were in categories or whatever.
Yeah, it's also, I found a little weird that certain ingredients just completely nullify everything else that might be in the pot.
Yeah, that's true.
Like all you need is, literally my recipe for success was 5 hearty truffles. And it's like, oh, you now have literally triple the life that you're supposed to have.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck to you.
What I'd do is I'd just do 1 truffle at a time, because it was a full heal every single time. Which kind of felt OP. Like, why would you pick up anything else for food after a certain point in the game,
That's the bizarre thing. Like, there is challenge in Breath of the Wild, but I think it's the bad kind of challenge where it can easily be trumped if you, like, just grind some exploits real quick.
Yeah. There was a video or two that I saw about how this game could be exploited like crazy.
Which isn't itself commendable, but...
Yeah, and one of the things was, like, you pretty much don't die in fighting because you can just pause and eat as much as you possibly want. As long as you have food and, like, a fairy just in case you don't press start in time, you're going to be fine.
But I didn't mean to get you off topic. So anything else, like cooking?
Yeah, that was pretty much my whole spiel about it. I mean, I really did think that it was neat when, you had to, have... I don't know, cold resistance to do certain things or heat resistance for certain things and that kind of stuff. Elixirs, I never fucking made them.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I made them just out of, like, trial and error, and I was like, well, this is out of my inventory now.
Yeah, and then I just threw them away because you can do everything with an elixir pretty much that you can just cook with normal food, and then that actually gives you health or whatever.
Yeah, Link is, my Link at least, is the motherfucking most notorious litterer in the goddamn kingdom.
Yeah, man.
The only thing I want to comment on, and it's another thing that's annoying about cooking, how about, like, when you decide, I don't want to cook 4 apples, I want to cook 3. You have to,
and then you can't just get rid of one of them, you have to get rid of all of them and then start over.
Yeah, it's just... Like, I appreciate the idea of, like, you gotta put a little extra effort in because cooking's hard in real life. But it's a lot like the weather cycle in this game, where it's like, it's a neat idea to try and make you feel more immersed, but by God does it teach that immersion often means being fucking aggravated with most of life.
Yeah, I wish that they balanced the game so that, like, food... like eating food took time or something like that, or you couldn't do it in battle. That would have made it much more interesting. Yeah.
Because, like, in Terraria, when you potion up, you gotta wait for a little bit to do it again.
Yeah, and that plays a lot like The Witcher. if you have to, especially The Witcher 1, where you have to create a whole bunch of potions and stuff, and you'd create certain potions based on what you're about to fight. So it would be kind of neat if it took a few notes from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Casey.
Yes.
Let's bring us back to the goodness of Breath of the Wild. What's your number 4 goodest part?
My number 4 goodest part is exploring Hyrule Castle.
Really?
Yep, it is fittingly enough, considering how much I hated the dungeons in the game. Hyrule Castle is the only one that I think is in any way decent. I like that there's an actual theming to it, unlike all the others where you're just exploring the inside of what could have been dry bone for all I care.
Yeah. Casey, I didn't like this part of the game.
Oh, I don't think it's great. I just think that I appreciate that there was actually a dungeon that had characterization to it.
Yeah.
I liked that there was
what was the characterization for you? Was it the aesthetic, or that each room kind of had its own name or whatever, and you could see its use and now how it was fucked up? Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yes, that, and also how you said with the uses thing, how you could see every room kind of makes sense in because it's a fucking castle. There's an armory, there's a kitchen, there's a library. It all kind of makes sense and it ties together well.
Yeah.
But it's also the fact that you can find random shit like cooking recipes, an entire arsenal of weapons in the armory, and the diaries that help characterize the king and Zelda a little bit better.
Huh, yeah.
And that's the thing, the dungeon itself, it's actually crawling with life. Because,
yeah.
And just from the fixtures and also from enemies actually wandering about, unlike in the Divine Beasts, where, again, they're dead, with the exception of floating goo.
Yeah.
And it was the only time in the entirety of the game, at least for a dungeon, where I actually had fun to explore. There are things about it that are really fucking bad. It is the dungeon that made me wish for that I could find a treasure chest with another 2D map in it. Because
the 3D map was kind of weird on that thing.
It's so bad. It's so hard to tell where you are, and why the fuck can't I look at the inside of the castle and the outside of the castle whenever I feel like it?
Yeah, that was pretty confusing.
Yeah, I cannot believe how unintuitive that was.
I'll tell you something. I didn't like this dungeon at all. And the reason that I didn't like it is you didn't have to do any of that exploring.
Nope.
The only things that you had to do, I'm pretty sure you had to do those fights. There were 2 fights pretty much.
Oh, with the Lionels?
Yeah, the Lionels.
Did you have to do them?
Oh, I think maybe one of them you had to do. You could probably bypass the other one. But you could just climb up the side, waterfall or whatever. I did that one time.
I was about to say, I'll tell you a fun story. Right before I actually went into Hyrule Castle seriously, I was just I'm gonna run in there and see what the deal is. And I had my Zora armor on.
Oh, yeah.
And I see a waterfall, and I'm just oh my god, I just got all the way to the top of this place.
Yep.
And I just stumbled upon it ass first. That's bad. That's very bad.
Yeah. Yeah, there was that thing. And then, there were a whole bunch of, interesting interweaving tunnels, and, I went into the armory or whatever, thinking that I'd get something cool. And there were, some mildly good weapons. I was kind of stacked at the time.
Oh, yeah. Almost nothing in there was actually useful. The only thing that I liked finding were those diaries, because it's oh, okay.
And, I wish that you had to do, something to open up a gate or something else to get a little bit farther or whatever.
Yeah.
A little bit more in that whole dungeon, because it just kind of seemed like a place. And if I was Link, I wouldn't want,
to fuck around with stuff that could kill me.
You're so close to saving Zelda, I'm not gonna fuck around, really. Which, there's another part of this that's actually in my top worst moments that I'm gonna save for later.
Okay, cool. Well, and I think that alone is testament to how, people like to shit on the classic template of Zelda dungeons, especially after playing this game. because it's like, oh, it's formulaic and it's so like cramped and linear.
Yeah.
Guess what? There are strengths to all of that, and Hyrule Castle showcases how bad the opposite end of that spectrum can be.
Yeah.
Because if there's no like direction, then it's entirely like probable that you could just bypass most of the interesting shit that I enjoyed from it.
Yeah, it would have been cool if like the map was easier to read and you had to go get something from a specific spot in the castle that you had to
Like
somehow
even a key.
navigate to. Yeah, like a key or something.
Like, does anyone remember when you need to get keys to open dungeon doors? Oh, I bet you're all missing them now.
What other games use that formula?
But yeah, I mean, it's certainly not a great dungeon. It would never even make it into like my top 20 Zelda dungeons, but
Yeah.
it was just such a breath of fresh air compared to those divine beasts.
Yeah, I agree. What are we doing now?
You're doing your number 4 best.
Oh, my number 4 best, Casey. That was the Terrytown quest. So, the Terrytown quest, we were kind of alluding to how I had a house in case you didn't know how you get it.
Oh, right.
Well, it's in Hateno Village, and, like, you just talk to these people. It's a Bolson construction company. And, the gimmick with this quest is, like, you have to do a whole bunch of menial tasks for these people and, like, cut down a whole bunch of trees. And
Right.
stuff like that, and give them a whole bunch of money. And you build your first house, and you can upgrade the house a bunch. And once you fully upgrade it, they kind of furnish it for you, and it looks kind of decent. And you have a few places to put weapons. So I put those high-level weapons I was talking about earlier in there.
You're a big fan of like, I don't want to say personal customization. You like area customization.
Yeah, I like when I can change the environment or the functionality of the game, or of like a part of the game or something like that.
Dude, just buy one of those green recycle cans and you can make a difference.
Yeah.
You can change the environment.
What's that? Animal Farm? Animal Crossing? Yeah. Animal Farm. Yeah, Animal Crossing is not
I thought you were about to say, like, what's that organization that helps the environment? PETA? Animals?
Yeah, I don't like Animal Crossing or whatever, but I do like, rebuilding towns in games or something like that, or like a lot of side questy shit where you just help people out. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
But anyways, so after you build your own house, you can also kind of build a town, and it's on
really?
like the top right part of the map. It's pretty
me,
cool. Yeah. So you just go into like I don't know if you remember this, but there was on the right side of the map, Casey, there was like this little forest that was in a valley, and it had 2 of those walking guardians in it.
Was it multicolored? The forest? Like, were all the trees like bizarrely rainbow colored?
I think they might have been, yeah.
Because that's like the top right area.
Yeah, yeah. It was I don't know, it was pretty cool, because like right overlooking that was like this little this little circle area that was connected to like some other land or whatever. And in the middle of that, you could talk to this dude, and you'd talk to him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm trying to build a town here. Can you help me out or whatever?" And then he asks you to recruit. The first task is you have to recruit pretty much one of every race, and the catch is that their name has to end in son.
I remember that now. I didn't do it because I was like, fuck you. I'm not trying to remember everyone's name.
Yeah, so I did all that, and they weren't like too hard to find. Like the Goron dude was in some cave that was outside the main Goron town or whatever. But
right.
I did do that, and then you have to help out, like recruit a few more people. You have to give them some money. You have to cut down some trees. You have to do some other shit.
Their name has to end in a prime number. That's like the final challenge to recruit.
And then every time you do it, they you get a new little shop in that town, and you can buy diamonds at some point, and you can buy like all the rare armors. Like you can buy the rubber armor, you can buy the climbing armor, yeah, all that stuff.
God damn it.
So, I don't know, it was just fun to have a little town being made, and then they have, like, a wedding ceremony there at the end.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, the final reward's 3 diamonds, which wasn't as good as, just building the town.
There's a sentimental, well, not sentimental,
Exactly.
but
Yeah, that's exactly right.
there is a reward to it that's beyond the fucking material.
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun.
What kind of wedding was it? Was it a Goron and a Gerudo, I hope?
It was a Gerudo and that dude that you were helping from the beginning, I think.
Bullshit!
I think it might have been somebody else.
Why am I the only one with fan fiction of Goron's fucking Gerudos? They're mountain and desert. They work well together.
It makes sense, Casey. I can see it.
Disclaimer: this is not true.
But yeah, that was a lot of fun, Casey.
That does sound neat. I do like. There's not much like. I don't feel like I missed a whole ton that I really give a shit about in that game, but I regret not getting that.
Yeah. Well, bring us back down, Casey. Give us your fourth worst.
The fourth worst is discovering the purpose of those fucking shrine pearls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sure you all know this. Like, when you beat any of the shrines, you get a pearl. What is your reward for the pearl? Well, first of all, you need 4 pearls to actually make any difference. And then your reward is that you can either improve your hearts or your stamina. You can either get an extra heart or, like, a fucking 10th of a stamina wheel. Might as well be for how fucking meaningful it is. And I was so pissed at that. I was so pissed that was the reward for all this shit.
Yeah, I don't. It didn't really bother me all that much. I kind of expected to not get any heart pieces in the game because I thought that was just going to be your sole way of getting heart pieces.
Sure.
But of course, with the dungeons and all. And
well, no. Go
on. It was kind of weird to balance doing the stamina and the hearts. And you were right. Like, the stamina doesn't really feel like it gives you anything whenever you upgrade it, like once or twice.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you why this bothered me. And I'll admit that part of the problem is how the game was originally shown to me. Because if you'll recall, back in 2016 E3, when Nintendo did that whole demo thing, the reward you got for the 4 shrine pearls from the tutorial area was the paraglider. Like, they didn't give it to you until you got the first 4 pearls.
Yeah, that's right.
So I assumed that the reward for the pearls going in was going to be something a bit more like, oh, here's a new item. Here's something...
Okay.
Or, like, here's an upgrade to an item or something like that.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit bothered when that wasn't the case. But what really, like, drove me nuts was I keep thinking back to previous Zelda games. And... like, what is the difference between getting 4 pearls, going to a shop, essentially, and trading them in for a heart container, versus just finding 4 heart pieces in the open world? And the answer is the difference is 5 minutes of your fucking life wasted, because you have to go back to the goddamn goddess statue and pay him, which takes forever.
Yeah, that would have been alright, doing, like, heart pieces and stamina pieces.
Yeah, I know, right?
For each one of those. Yeah. Yeah, I can kind of see where you're coming from now.
Well, and the only other thing is, like, the second that I realized that reward was just going to be a consistent, like, either upgrade your health or your stamina, like, suddenly every shrine I encountered, every pearl I received, every side quest I endeavored in felt so anticlimactic because, like, building up the hearts and the stamina, it's too slow of a boil, and it feels like too thankless a task to feel worth all the effort I go through.
Yeah, it loses all the mystery. Like, I guess in previous games and a lot of other games, you go into a dungeon and you might not know what item you're going to get if you're going to get an item.
Yeah.
Now you know that you're just going to get 1/4 of a heart piece or, stamina wheel part.
Or 1/16 of a stamina wheel.
Yeah. Yeah, I see where you're coming from, Casey. One thing that I didn't like about it was not so much like the reward from the shrines, but so many of the shrines were so easy and like simple, and there were so many of those fighting ones.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there really were.
So.
But even like the more difficult ones, like when sometimes I would get to a shrine quest and I wouldn't realize that the end reward was a shrine. Like, I'll never forget that fucking one where you have to get 3 marbles off of, like, these fucking giant goblin necklaces. And, like, there are these 3 sleeping giant goblins around. And it took me forever to, like, kill each of them, grab the marbles, and put them where they needed to go. Because this was, like, a massive circle that you had to walk around.
Yeah.
And the end of all that was a shrine. I was just thinking to myself, God damn it. I just went through all that aggravation for a pearl. Fuck me.
Yeah. Well, my number fourth worst aspect of this game was pretty much what we were talking about earlier. The divine beasts as dungeons and their bosses. Yeah. Like, the bosses were just unmemorable to me in general, but it was the divine beasts themselves were often less fun than getting into them.
I know! That's so insane to me!
Yeah.
Like, the best part of any divine beast was getting into it.
Yeah, and they were all... After you saw me play through that first one, where I didn't know that if I touched my screen or whatever, that I'd manipulate the inside of that elephant thing. Or not elephant, whatever it was.
Oh, the giraffe, right.
Yeah. But as soon as I figured that out, every single one of those dungeons, like, turned into a cakewalk.
Yeah, I really did.
I think that none of them took me more than 20 minutes, the last 3 of them, after I knew what I was going to try and do, at least.
Yeah. It's such a shame because, like, conceptually, there's a lot to like about the divine beasts. Like, every one of them has its own little way to manipulate the map. And, most of them are unique and kind of cool.
Yeah.
But it's so, like, the beasts themselves are so basically designed that it just feels kind of like a largely empty endeavor.
Yeah.
What was your favorite quest to get into a divine beast?
It was the one that you saw me do.
Okay, the sand surfing?
Yeah, the sand surfing and shooting the legs or whatever. That was pretty neat.
Yeah, mine was the Zora one, where you had to jump on that guy's back and shoot away projectiles until he could let you, like, swim up the elephant.
Yeah, that was pretty cool, too. It was epic, like, going up that high and shooting your bow.
Yeah.
That was a cool aspect of this game that I didn't use nearly enough, was that slowdown or whatever when you're jumping and shooting an arrow.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. Like, you want to talk about exploits. It's crazy how much you can just fuck everything over by doing that.
Yeah. And then I didn't know you could reset your stamina or whatever with that, but you can. So
Wait, what?
Yeah. Like, I think if you press B or something after you shoot an arrow, you can just get out of your slowdown and you reset your stamina completely.
Excuse me? What?
I don't know if you can slow down again after that. You might be able to. Yeah, you can.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I could have been like fucking Quicksilver there.
People are probably just yelling at their podcast telling me that I'm wrong or whatever, but I remember doing it, especially when you had to go do that bird part, when you had to get in the flying bird. And right before that, where you had to shoot a whole bunch of targets around that, like, pillar to go prove yourself to that one dude.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Suddenly, I trust that you can do this entire thing because you beat an extremely easy target practice.
Yeah, that was the least interesting way to get to the flying beast. Because I was wondering, because you can see the thing flying for so long, and it was the last one that I did, so I was like, how in the flying fuck am I going to get up here, literally? And
Flying fuck.
Yeah, but then it just, like, cutscene, you're in the air.
Yeah, it's really surprising. I was convinced that, like, with Far Cry 3 and Just Cause 2, that there would eventually be a way to at least, like, kind of go through the air more efficiently.
Yeah. But that, like, I just wish that there was a more traditional or a few more traditional Zelda dungeons. I think that they would have worked well in this game. And it would have been actually really neat if you got a unique item from each one of them.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I'll remind you, like, from our top 5 Zelda games, that's, like, my favorite part of any Zelda game are the dungeons, so...
Yeah, like, you get these abilities, and I'm gonna talk about one of my other things that almost made it I wrote it down as a possible worst part of this game, and it's a really specific one.
Okay.
After you get your Urbosa's Fury, it discourages you from using charged attacks. And the reason that it does that is because in order to activate your Urbosa's... Yeah, exactly. So I mean, they like recharge over time, but you want to, like, I always wanted to use them on the Guardians because it was my first ability that let me actually fucking kill them.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, maybe it's just because I'm OCD, but when I fucking, like, would use one, and I'd have only, like, 2 or 1 left, I'd be like, fuck me, I might as well just use it up right now.
Exactly.
So I can get all 3 back.
Yeah, that's it. It would have made way more sense if it, like, refreshed over time, like individual ones or whatever out of the 3.
Or if you just had a fucking button that let you do it.
Yeah.
As opposed to having to charge your slash, which is one of your inherent abilities.
Yeah, so it discouraged me from a certain kind of fighting, you know? So I didn't use charge attacks at all for the rest of the game because I didn't want to waste my Urbosa's Fury.
Yeah, I was the opposite. I kept using charge attacks, but then I was like, fuck me, now I gotta do this 3 times quickly and hope that I don't encounter anything in the next 10 minutes that I need this for.
Yeah. Yeah. But it would have been cooler, like you're saying, just to have a different button or something. And I didn't really even use, because I got it late in the game, that jump ability where you kind of fly up. That would have been nice for, like, most of the game.
I only, like, thought to myself of one area where I really badly wanted to use that when I got it.
Yeah.
And that was this one fucking, like challenge you could do of how long you could stay in the air.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you do that?
I think I... Oh, yeah, I did. It was at the end of, the... What was it called? Eventide Island?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, at the end of that, like, there's this dude that's talking to you, and you talk to him, and he's like, oh, dude, check this out. Try and go through these rings.
Yeah.
And you do it. That was fun. That was a nice little minigame.
Yeah, it was.
All right. So what is this now, Casey?
Number 3.
Is this me or you?
Me, the best.
Casey's the best.
I don't mean that I'm the best, but I mean
Casey's number 3 is the best.
Okay, my number 3 best moment of Breath of the Wild was the 7 Heroines Shrine quest.
I don't remember this.
So in the Gerudo Wastelands, there exist these 7 like sister statues that are all playing like the Soggy Biscuit game, like circled around one another. No, I'm not crude. Fuck you.
Oh, I remember this one now. Yeah.
Yeah, you remember Soggy Biscuit Sisters?
That's exactly what I called them.
Oh wait, you're the one I got that from.
Did I? No, I think you got that from... I got that from you.
I like how you're like, wait, did this really happen?
I'm not going to claim ownership to that in any way. It's all yours.
Don't worry, because I just made it up.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Anyway, so each statue has its like a respective symbol somewhere on it, like a fucking Pac-Man symbol or an equal symbol, a stop symbol, whatever. And there's a pedestal at each of their bases. And scattered around the area are 7 marbles that have a corresponding symbol to one of the statues. And what you have to do to open the shrine is find the correct marble and put it in the pedestal that is corresponding to the statue in question.
Yeah.
I fucking loved that quest. Like, not that it was difficult or anything, but it's one of the most involved and laborious quests I found. Because, like, it requires multiple... it demands multiple things out of you. Like, you need to understand the puzzle, of course. You need to identify the symbols, which requires climbing to see some of them, traveling along the desert lands to reach each of the statues. You need memory of which one has which symbol. I even had to rely on, like, the positioning of the sun, because sometimes, like, I couldn't see the symbols because they were covered in shade until the sun was in a certain area.
Yeah.
And then you had to move the marbles via, like, different techniques, like using stasis to dislodge it from a hand, or magnesis just to lift it and put it in. Like, it demanded so many, like, techniques to complete, and it felt so good to put in. It always feels good to put in a lot of effort and thought into a puzzle and then have it succeed.
Yeah.
like it just like, and I can't really claim that there's anything special about it because it's also really fucking tedious to climb those statues and do all this shit. But
Yeah.
it was, for me, it was like the epitome of Breath of the Wild's greatest strength, which is in its like that's got this good moment to moment gameplay in it.
Yeah, it does.
And just that like, I don't know, that puzzle in particular really stuck with me.
Yeah, I remember doing this puzzle, and I don't remember what it was or why it happened, but all the balls reset.
Oh, that sucks.
So I had to do it like twice.
Oh, that would ruin it.
Yeah. So I don't look back on that one particularly fondly, but in my experience,
but I'm sure you have a corresponding quest that was like really involved and also just memorable for how much work you put into it.
Yeah, I do, and it's gonna be my number 3.
Okay. Well,
but
I'll cut this. No, go on.
That I do agree that was a really cool moment in that game where you had like this dedicated space in the overworld for a big puzzle like that.
Yeah.
And it was
go on.
at the time in the game where I had to really manage my stamina at this point, so I had to like kind of strategically get up some of those statues, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, me too. The Gerudo Desert was the third place I went to, but it was still those were some tall fucking statues.
Yeah.
I just like, the only other thing is I love puzzles that are actually a collection of puzzles because, you know, like you said, you have to manage your stamina, but you also have to figure out where things go. I just like that it required multiple things out of you, unlike a lot of the puzzles in the game where it's just like, oh, make an ice cube rise and stand on it for a few, or, oh, just grab this ball and go put it over there.
Yeah. I always forgot about the ice cube ability.
Oh god, it is the black sheep of this fucking game's ability roster.
Yeah, it has so much less utility than the rest of them.
Which is a shame, because the few times I used it, I was like, hey, that was kind of cool.
Yeah, like opening shit or whatever, and
or
using
like
it to,
making a sundial out of it.
Yeah, or kind of going up like waterfalls, like jumping up them or whatever.
Yeah, oh my god, that one shrine.
Yeah,
like
that was
where you
neat.
had to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or when I used ice cubes solely to get to that island.
Oh, that's right. I used them to get across in the tutorial area that would freeze you.
Yeah. Like, ladies and gentlemen, just envision spending 20 minutes skipping along the ocean on ice skipping stones to get to that one island on the bottom right of the map.
Yeah, God, that's a bad choice, Casey.
And rather than warp out of there, I decided I'm just going to skip all the way back. And
Yeah.
I did.
There was a damn little boat you could take or whatever, raft.
Was there? I was just like, well, I got here one way. I'll be damned if I'm not getting out the same way.
Jesus, you can fast travel.
Yeah, you could. I don't know what possessed me to do that, but I don't regret it for a second.
I'm glad.
I think I was just trying to prove, like, hey, look at how easy it is to exploit the fact that they give you every physics tool imaginable.
Yeah. All right, Casey.
What's your top 3?
My number 3 is I'm gonna try and keep it short because you might talk about this because I know this is one of the coolest parts of the game. The Eventide Island Shrine.
Nope, that's not in mine.
Oh shit! Okay, cool. We can talk about it.
What's Eventide Island? I don't know where that is.
This is the one where you go back to like having no gear.
Okay, so it is it is the island on the bottom right.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. This place was really neat. Instead of Casey's ice cube method, I just did like the normal one where you jump off that cliff, and you can make it there in one go if you have enough stamina.
I was about to say, for some reason, it just never seemed possible to me. But I guess I was just thinking, like, that would never work in real life.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm getting all the way over there on a hang glider.
Yeah, and my first experience doing this island, I got most of the way through, but I died to the Cyclops because I was just like saving him because I was like, I need some more weapons. How can I do this?
Yeah.
But so that was like, I got so close, and then I was like, fuck, I'm just gonna try later when I have more hearts or whatever. So then
Right.
I did it again, and I was way more prepared. Oh, and that was the first time that I ever saw a normal Cyclops.
Oh wow! Holy shit!
Yeah, I'd fought the skeletons a number of times, but that was the first time that I tried to fight a normal one. So
Right, right.
I didn't know quite what was happening, and he picked up a tree and beat my ass.
Yeah, I think I remember beating him by just like using magnesis and grabbing like anything metal and just bopping him over the head repeatedly.
Yeah, I think I had a number of weapons,
Oh, cool.
and I used them mostly. And I think oh yeah, that's right, I did hit like a stone or two into him. Because you
Oh
could
yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, like stabilize it or whatever, stasis it,
Yeah.
and then just hit the shit out of it and take out a chunk of his health.
See, fucking that's like areas like that showcase to me that Zelda should be largely linear but have open areas. Like, because it's a pretty linear experience, like doing that side quest, but you can go about it either way because it's a tiny little isolated area
Yeah.
with like not a lot of stuff to worry about, like overpowering or unbalancing.
Yeah. I think
And
that the Zelda in a lot of games like this, like, they do better when they can control the number of variables. Like, I think a lot of the design of this game is they didn't know which weapons, what level you'd be, how experienced
yeah,
you'd be whenever you get to an area, so they give you all your tools up front, and they scale things to you, and they don't make anything, like, too hard, and you don't need to have any other items to complete anything else in the game, you know?
yeah,
So like a lot of your upgrades are just convenience, like that one where you fly up into the air or whatever. But this
yeah,
one was awesome because you like they could control the variables, so it was really tailored. Like it was a tailored experience where they
yeah,
gave you
exactly. Like
just enough to fucking beat it.
like when you can actually like have an isolated environment, it is way easier to just make it however challenging or fair you want.
Yeah, yeah. So that was my favorite like shrine by far. Because, well, it just gives you a shrine afterwards. That's pretty much the shrine, and then it
Yeah,
just gives you one of those empty shrines afterwards.
yeah. I don't mind that. Like, I don't mind that some of the shrines were just do this thing outside because you had to do a lot to get to it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Once again, though, it's just a shame that the reward vastly undermines the effort that went into solving the fucking puzzle.
Yeah. Casey, give us your number 3 worst aspect of this game.
Number 3, I'm gonna do a little story here, okay?
Oh, is it story time, Papa Casey?
Story, eat your peas, and then touch your peas. Anyway, go away. Okay, so throughout the starting areas of the game, what are the enemies you encounter? Bokoblins, moblins, Lizalfos, skeletons, and jelly creatures or whatever, and maybe bats.
Yeah.
And that was fine. I thought that was I thought that those were all good starting enemies and all that, right? Turns out that those three races, the Bokoblins, the Moblins, and the Lizalfos, are almost entirely ubiquitous throughout the game world.
Yup.
And I originally assumed that they'd be limited to certain areas, and that each place you went to would showcase like different enemies. Because I thought, oh, lizard people are in the desert and the ruined area. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Turns out no. Turns out that Breath of the Wild does not have a lot up its sleeve when it comes to enemy design. And the primary way that it implements difficulty and variety is that it recycles the exact same monsters, but just dyes their hair and gives them higher life/damage dealing.
Yeah, that's pretty lazy design in my opinion, and I'm sure you agree.
Yeah, it really is. And I'll tell you, and this is the number third worst moment, and it's when the realization that I was never going to encounter anything outside of these three races mainly is when I was all the way up to the northern area of the map, and I was exploring like this like dead dragon bone thing, and I had already seen red, blue, and black bokoblins, and I thought, okay, black is the final one. I'm never gonna surely they're not gonna have any more after that. I encounter a silver bokoblin at the top of the map, and motherfucker hits like a fucking freight train and takes damage like no one's business. But at that point, I was just like, okay, like the homogenous feeling of this game struck me right then, because There's something wrong when the same races I'm encountering in a desert are the same at a beach, are the same at a forest, are the same in a jungle, are the same at a mountain, are the same at the fucking ruined ends of the earth.
Yeah. This almost made my list as well. And the reason that, well, I mean, like, obviously, I would have liked to have more enemy variety because it changes up the gameplay or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I think that the combat in this game is pretty good.
Yeah, it's standard Zelda combat is good.
But it just doesn't have the enemy variety that the game really needs. But I, like, after the beginning of the game, when I did, like, a few encampments or whatever, I just didn't do any more. The entire game, I didn't do any more encampments because it was just a waste of life.
Boy, I wish I had followed suit with that because, I mean, like, later portion of the game, I was just like, no, I'll just wear my fucking pig mask and make these people ignore me.
Oh, you got that? I never did that. I just
bought all those masks. I was
them.
just like, I'm fucking done. I'm done with these lizards like sneaking up on me and wasting my time.
Yeah. Yeah, I just run away from things.
Yeah. Well, it's such a shame too because it goes back like I was gonna say that's like the beauty of that controlled environment kind of thing, like because of course all the enemies are going to be the same in this massive open world because if you can go anywhere, then you can't be like stumbling constantly into like enemies that'll fuck you up or that are too advanced for you.
Yeah.
But it feels like they still could have like had easy enemies that were different, just like like that made you use a different mechanic. Like why the fuck aren't there enemies that are like specifically designed to be beaten by your items, like your tablet runes?
Yeah.
Why is every enemy able to just be walloped to death with a club?
Yeah. I agree, and I think that they probably should have implemented some more like non-humanoid, enemies as well.
Yeah, seriously.
And I guess a lot of the problem, another reason why I didn't do the encampments is like if I had good items, I just didn't want to waste them on bullshit,
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was another issue, I guess. So my number 3 worst part of this game was the voice acting and the writing. Like every single one of those like memories or just the dialogue in general, like reading it, and the one that got me the most, I think it's pretty infamous, is like the Goron people and how they sound. God.
Oh my god, dude. They sound like someone who has never fucking like played a Zelda game or knows what a Goron is supposed to be.
Yeah, it sounds like I can't even remember. It almost sounds like somebody who's about to go surfing,
Harley, dude!
Yeah.
Oh god.
So yeah, that like I don't know. And Zelda's voice I didn't like. I think that she was real flat, and I didn't like any of the hero like characters, how they were written or how they talked.
Yeah. Like the only one who had any personality per se was Birdman.
I thought he was shit.
Well, yeah, no, he's a total douche, and fuck him.
Yeah.
But but at least he's got the fact that he's a douche to be slightly memorable.
Yeah. I suppose so.
Like, it's saying something when bad writing is the one thing that's, like, helping you be recognized.
Yeah. Like, I think I mentioned it before, but I really like the part of this game where you kind of make your own story or whatever. Where there isn't a lot of story, but all the story that I got was pretty bullshit. And I just liked when I knew, like, okay, I just need to be stronger so I can save Zelda, so let me go do that.
Yeah. Well, it's a shame, too, because... And I'm not saying that Zelda games are on average, well-written, because they're not.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, Ocarina of Time, I can forgive that, because it was back in that day of, like... It doesn't need to be, like, Pulitzer Prize winning. It's just impressive that they crammed what they did into it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like, shit like Twilight Princess and even some of Skyward Sword shows that, like... There can be good writing in a Zelda game, and unlike you, I am much more I gravitate more to a guided experience. Like, I'm not as big a fan of the make your own story kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But even what little they gave me was so bad that it was just like, well, I'm not enjoying this, and it's not even a lot to it, and I don't like it.
Yeah. I see what you mean, Casey's.
But I'm just saying, like, it's a shame that, like, you could have had that make your own story thing, and there still could have been good writing to it.
Oh, yeah.
There could have been good writing that helped juxtapose with that.
Yeah, the game gave you a skeleton, and the skeleton was dog shit. But you filled in, like, all the muscle mass and stuff.
Yeah. It's just a shame that, like, for me, the skeleton is so important that it was just kind of like, well, this fucking blows. Fuck these people.
Yeah.
I think the only characters I liked were the Zora brother, like the fucking guy who always does, like, a close-up shot with his fucking thumb.
Mm-hmm.
If only because he's, like, funny in that way.
Yeah. That was kind of funny. That was okay. Because it was almost like mocking or like, you know.
Yeah.
It was on purpose, like, I don't know, cringy or something.
You know what, like will always stand as one of the worst written parts of that game for me?
What?
Aside from some of the Zelda memories.
What?
There is a moment after you beat the Zora area where the Zora King is talking to the Zora brother, Prince, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he flat out says, especially you, Zora Prince, whose name I don't remember, I can tell that you've grown quite a lot recently. And I just remember thinking to myself, yeah, random Zora guy, I don't remember your name. You have been such a dynamic character, and you've grown so much that I can't even remember what happened to you. Oh, probably because I never saw any of that internal conflict or growth that you've displayed. But the king says it happened, so I'll buy it. I'll buy it.
Yeah.
Like, fuck off.
Yeah, that's a nice example of the game telling and not showing.
Yeah, well, it's weird because the Zora area I thought had, like, the best chance of being well written because they kind of early on established that a lot of the people there hate you because you failed.
Yeah, that's right.
And I thought that's like, okay, that's not bad. That's not bad. Let's see a society that hates the hero who failed and then slowly try and win him over. But no, that was the only time that ever happened, and we all forget about it afterward.
Yeah. Casey.
What?
Bring us
Depressed.
back. Bring us back. Give us something good.
Okay.
Something real good.
Number 2. Fighting the Lionel of Polymus Mountain.
Which mountain's that?
In the Zora territory, where you have to get the lightning arrows.
Oh, okay. Nice. How'd that go?
Good. When they told me to go collect the arrows, I did that. But I was like, I can fight this thing. I'm going to fight this thing. Even though, mind you, this was the first area I went to. So I am pretty confident I was grossly underpowered for this thing.
Yeah.
To fight a fucking Lionel. And he killed me twice. Took me 3 attempts to kill him.
I'm really impressed you did it.
Collected all. Huh?
I'm really impressed you did it. I've sucked at fighting those even at the end of the game.
Well, and that's it. Like, they're hard. They're the only. Like, I'd say they're the hardest enemy. They're even harder than the Guardians because the Guardians are just pop them in the eyeball.
Yeah.
But like, it's the Lionel in that one in particular was the only time in the game where I felt the combat was really rewarding, outside of like the first strength challenge, of course. Because it's very like fighting it was very like Souls-like, like it, you know, like the combat of Demon and Dark Souls and all that.
Yeah.
Because I had to like learn the tells of this thing's attack patterns. I had to memorize its attack patterns. I was surprised whenever it demonstrated a new attack, like when it could breathe fire halfway through. I was like, oh my fucking god, what am I doing? And the best part was perfecting like hitting its weak point, because apparently if you shoot it in the face mid-attack, it becomes incapacitated.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it got to the point where, like, you know how it would occasionally like just come full bore charge at you?
Yeah.
It got to the point where I was picking his face off as he did that, like, and it was so epic sometimes. Like, he would be like inches from swinging his sword and lopping my head off, but I would nail his face at a moving target coming right at me.
Dude, that's awesome.
Like, yeah, it was such a demanding, high-octane fight that felt more achievable with each attempt, which is the best kind of like fight from a Dark Souls game.
Yeah.
And it was so good. The only reason it's number 2 is because that's not a unique encounter of the Lionel, which is a real shame.
It is.
Because afterward they start getting really repetitive to fight.
Yeah, I never really got good at fighting the Lionels. It kind of turned into like a gear check, food check thing for me.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because you couldn't really block with certain shields his attacks, and for some reason like half my dodges wouldn't work, and I didn't really understand why.
He's got some weird, weird range / like timing with some of his attacks.
Yeah. I saw some other gameplay after I beat the game of people beating those Lionels with like those. You know, I never did the parries really. I never parried anything in that game.
I never parried either. I mean, I would do that like slow down time dodge thing, but
yeah, and the dodge thing works a lot differently than it does in other games. It's like you have to be in the dodge during the damage, where in normal games you dodge just right before you're gonna get hit.
Right. Actually, wait a minute. I'm sorry. You can parry?
Yeah, you have to like fling your shield.
How do you do that?
It's like L or something like that, like L2
What the fuck is
or
this
whatever
shit
it is.
that I keep learning about?
Yeah, you can do that. I saw a video of people doing it with Guardian Blasts. You can send Guardian Blasts back to them with normal shields.
That's insanity.
Yeah, if you just
that
time
also
your
makes
parry.
no earthly sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So that's a neat little thing.
Yeah. Well, and anyway, just like at its best, the combat is so rewarding. It's just a shame that, again, because of how large and basic the enemies are, it doesn't often give you that.
Yeah, I see what you mean, Case.
What's your number 2?
My number 2 is gliding down Mount Lanryu and shooting the corrupted Nadra.
Cool. I did like that was another one of those very fun moments.
Yeah, and this is like the mountain that's kind of on the right hand side of the map, midway or so.
Yeah, the icy it's near Hateno.
Yeah.
Hatengo.
And that Lionel over there was the first one that I found.
Oh shit! I remember that fucker too.
Yeah. He didn't kill me, but he made me run away. So I came back.
You better get the fuck out of here, boy.
Yeah, I pretty much explored most of every single area when I unlocked it, but I unlocked that one and I was like, fuck that. I'm not touching that guy. But then much later in the game, I came down there and got the climb up there was really pretty. And once you get up to the top, there's this kind of dialogue cutscene thing where you find out that one of those dragons is corrupted with that Ganon corruption bullshit.
Yeah.
So then you have to glide down with him and shoot him with your slowdown time stuff.
Yeah.
Shoot
It was
the
so
bulbous
Shadow
parts
of the
on him.
Colossus.
And he takes you all around if you follow him long enough.
Yeah, he does.
It was awesome. That was it was just so epic to even do that. It was just pure visual epicness that made that so cool for me. And usually I don't get it takes a lot for me to even notice aesthetics.
Yeah, actually it's weird because that fight didn't aesthetically appeal to me, but just the concept of it was holy shit.
Yeah.
I am flying at a dragon and shooting at him.
Yeah, that concept was pretty cool. And I don't know, I liked that a lot.
Yeah, that is a really it's it feels to me like so much of the game wanted to be Shadow of the Colossus, but that's one of the few moments where it's
yeah, it really did feel like
fucking
that.
nailed it.
Yeah, I agree, Casey.
It's just a shame the dragon doesn't actually fight back.
That's true. It
He's
just
just
had
well,
those corruption balls that would try and get you.
I don't even remember that. I just
I think
remember
I could be making that up.
I just remember he was like, "Well, I've got Ganondorf pimples all over me now. Can someone apply some zinc oxide and kill it?"
Yeah.
That's not what you use zinc oxide for. What the fuck am I talking about? No. Benzoyl peroxide. Fuck off. All of you. I hate you.
Great. Thank you for the the learning moment, Casey. That was a teachable moment right there.
Did you know, with Casey, your dick is actually inflatable?
Casey, eat your peas and then tell me what your number 2 worst is.
Okay, hold on. Okay, so there's this this epic and conceptually interesting fight with a dragon in a snowy peak where you have to like fucking glide down it.
I was thinking that you might have to talk about that, so I didn't talk anymore about it.
Oh god.
So this exact thing that we were just talking about, this is your second worst moment. Do explain.
Not the fight, not with the dragon. So, you know, I really enjoyed that whole part. And at the end of it, you get a reward with one of his scales, I'm pretty sure, which you have to offer to a statue at the top of the mountain peak.
That's right.
Now, mind you, throughout the entirety of the game, and I did this way late. Pretty sure I did this like after I had at least done 3 of the Divine Beasts.
Okay.
But around this time, throughout the entirety of the game, my expectations for what the game could reward me with had kind of been whittled away to nothing. Like, I knew it was either going to be pearls, degradable weapons, or money. Most likely. Sometimes materials. And this was, mind you, the first time I took on one of the dragons. And this quest was set up in a way that made me think it was going to be unique. You know, like this was the only time a goddess statue actually spoke to me. You acquired a never before seen material when you beat this creature, and for God's sakes, you fight a fucking dragon, right?
Yeah.
And in the end, all of that build up, all of that amounted to a shrine appearing. And immediately, all my hopes were shattered like so much fucking glass.
Yeah. It was one of those empty shrines where they give you an item and they give you the that little pearl or whatever, right?
Yep, and here comes my number 2 worst moment. Now, mind you, this is not the most extreme example of this feeling that I got, but it was the final straw where I was just like, all right, I'm so done. And that was the reward I got, not the pearl, the reward I got, the item I got from that shrine. It was a fucking ice spear, Austin. It was a fucking spear that was so below my level and that I had seen 20 of in the entirety of the game.
Yeah. I also didn't take it either. It was worse than everything I had at the time.
Yes,
I was pretty disappointed, but I do remember, like, when you first told me about this moment, I was like, oh yeah, that was some bullshit.
I was so upset. I remember exactly what I did. I quietly grabbed the ice spear, got my pearl, went outside. I looked around, saw what seemed like the highest area that I could possibly throw anything from, and I chucked that ice spear like a fucking javelin down the side of Mount Ice Fuck Off. And you know, there was a moment that was actually going to take this spot that had the same feeling, and it was when you did that fucking shrine where you had to use the gamepad as a fucking motion control avatar for navigating this fucking ball through a fucking maze thing.
I like that.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I know you did, but it fucking infuriated me to all fuck for that fucking imprecise control that it had.
Yeah.
And the reward for that was a bow and arrow. Or just a bow. That was kind of shit.
Oh, I couldn't remember that. I did that so early on that I probably would have taken whatever it was.
Yeah. I like, so many of the rewards in this game, like, convey the worst part of Breath of the Wild for me, and that is the feeling of, that was it?
Yeah.
Like, that was all that it was in aid of? But that ice spear, for everything that I went through, for all the build-up that it had, for how epic the entire thing felt, it ended with the most disappointing little period ever.
Yeah, I wish that the game, like, with those kinds of rewards, they should have scaled it to your level. Or something, you know?
Or given me a piece of armor. Like, there's 3 dragons in the game, dude. There's 3 pieces of armor that you don.
Yeah.
Why couldn't I have, like, dragon armor?
Oh, that would have been way better. That's a great idea.
Instead, I just get a fucking 3-pointed dildo that I just threw off the side of a mountain, and at that point I was just like, I'm so done. I'm so done with this.
Yeah.
Now, fun fact, before we get to your number 2, I just want to state that was originally, for the longest time, going to be my number 1 worst moment.
Oh.
Like, I didn't think anything was going to top that.
Well, I can't wait to find out what does.
Indeed.
But
before we get to that, go on.
Yeah. My second worst moment in the game has to do with Hyrule Castle.
Okay.
And so like I was telling you and everybody else that's listening before, this game to me was like a story that you make for yourself. You're Link and you're getting powerful so you can save Zelda. Sure. So I didn't want to fuck around in Hyrule Castle. I was just like, I want to get in, get out, save the girl, bada bing, bada boom. You know? The last memory that I didn't get for this game. Yeah. Right. There's a memory, and it's at the end of Hyrule Castle, and it's where Casey was talking about, like, there's diaries and shit you can read. So you go in there and you have your last memory, but now, after you get your last memory, you have to talk to somebody.
Yeah, you have to talk to the...
You have to, Impa.
Yeah,
you gotta go
to the old one.
Yeah, go back to Kakariko, talk to Impa, and then she's like, oh, there's a one final memory that Zelda, like, you know, didn't tell me to tell you until you got these other ones. So then...
For some sick reason.
Yeah. I mean, that last memory was pretty cool, because you find out that, like, Link had never even been to fight Ganon. He just died, like, by some random guardian. Because it was kind of implied that you go and you, like, go fight or something like that, and then they have to bring you back or whatever. Yeah. But it's like you didn't even get to do really anything.
That said, it is a load of horseshit that then and there Zelda awakens her Super Saiyan ability to talk to his sword, of all things, for some bizarre reason.
Yeah. But the part that was the worst about this for me is, like, I had all this build up to go to Hyrule Castle. My first time, I was like, fuck, I'm just gonna do this. And then, like, I get the memory, I get the final memory, and then I have a fucking blood moon, so everything respawns.
Oh, fuck me.
So then I just have to do Hyrule Castle again, and it was so stupid. It, like, lost all the game's momentum for me.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of... And I was really disappointed with the Ganon fight as well, but who knows.
And all because the game decided to be like, oh, hey, by the way, go talk to this other person now that you've done what we asked you to do. Go out your way to talk to this person that you haven't seen for the last half of the game.
Yeah.
And get fucked if the consequences aren't to your liking.
And then in, like, one of those final cutscenes, Zelda's like, you may not have recovered all of your memories, but whatever.
The hell I didn't.
And I was like, bitch, you better recognize.
I hope I don't recover any more memories, because this has so far been fucking bullshit.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Yeah, it just... Like, the ending could have been okay for me, but that it had to break its momentum so fucking hard. Just brought it down a whole new level or whatever.
It's a shame, because, like, I don't know if this happened to you, but there's this assistant over at Impa's house, like this white-haired girl who I would have fucked hard. But,
nice. Public record.
Just for public record. But anyway, there's this white-haired girl who's like, I don't know, fucking understudy of Impa or whatever. And you talk to her after, like, you've learned that you need to go collect memories or whatever.
Okay.
And you ask her what the fuck the deal is with this orb, like, thing in Impa's house. And she was like, oh, well, it's only for someone who's a true hero or whatever. And then Impa, like, interrupts by saying, Link, you should fucking go... like, get all these memories, then I'll tell you something. And I thought, because I didn't recognize what that orb was for a long time, I thought that it was going to be some super cool item you got once you got all the memories.
Oh, yeah.
Like, maybe it was a fucking Pokeball that had a sword in it or something. But, no, turns out that orb had nothing to do with anything. It was just a really poorly done way to teach you that orbs reacted to you because you were a hero.
Amazing.
And then I was treated to a memory of Zelda finally not being an idiot. That's just great.
Yep. Casey.
Yes.
Bring us back. Give us that good shit. That number one.
It's a shame that my number one moment happened very early on in the game. It is when you acquire the Zora tunic from the King of the Zoras. That is my number one moment.
And that's the one that lets you go up the waterfalls?
Yes, exactly.
That was an awesome mobility item.
It was. And just for some context, before questing to fight the Lionel, you receive the Zora armor. And, first of all, I thought it was a really good reward, because getting to the Zora Kingdom was not an easy task, what with the constant torrential rainfall stopping you from exploiting the world.
Yeah. And
dealing with lizards with lightning arrows. So I thought that armor was a really nice reward, and I was like, oh, okay, so this will be the kind of structure of the game. You'll have to go through some bullshit that limits you, but then you get a really nice reward for it, right?
Yeah.
And it's like you said, the Zora armor has a really nice effect to it, where you can travel up waterfalls, and you can swim faster also. And I thought that this was going to be... Because if you'll recall, I was concerned with the fact that you were given all of your items at the start of the game. Like, all the meaningful shit. Because I was like, well, how the hell are they going to keep it interesting for me if I don't get anything that's, meaningful later?
Yeah.
And when I got the Zora armor, I was like, okay, so this is how they're going to do it. You don't get items, but you get armors through story quests that open up possibilities for you. Because when I got that Zora armor, it was like a Metroid feeling at that moment. Suddenly, the possibility of exploring previously unreachable areas, opened up to me. And previous areas that I'd been to could be more easily traversable with, well, at least, until you realize that there aren't a lot of waterfalls.
That's the same feeling that I got, Casey.
Yeah, and I assumed that, this armor was setting the precedent for what the rewards of the other areas would be. Turns out, no, they're not. Turns out that is the only time in the entirety of the game where there's actually, a relatively meaningful armor. I mean, yeah, it's nice that there are some that have, certain status effects or immunity to certain weather conditions.
Yeah.
But there's no wingsuit or...
Yeah, the wingsuit, that would have been amazing.
Yeah, wouldn't it? Or a Goron suit that lets you roll like them, so you can move faster along the land.
Casey, you should be a game designer.
I know, right? It's a good thing that I have no money or experience or talent or staff or anything.
Nice.
And the only other thing that really hit home for me with this armor was that it probably had the only moment in the game where I found the story interesting. Because for those who don't recall, apparently in the Zora lore, Zora women give an armor that they made to a man that they want as a husband. And I found out that armor that I was given was in fact made from the dead Zora champion Mipha, who they flat out said was in love with me. And then they show a flashback that pretty much confirms holy shit, she wants my dick hard.
Yee.
And what I really liked about that was, first of all, finally there's a romantic interest beyond just Zelda, because fuck Zelda. I'm not bitter.
Not literally.
No, I'll still do it literally,
okay,
but also metaphorically.
Okay.
And not only that, but this is one of the only times where they've ever actually been bold enough to proclaim that there is a love, some sort of love feeling in a Zelda game. The only other time, fittingly enough, was Rudo, the other Zora from Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
And the idea that the armor was a wedding gift, it's an interesting bit of lore and world building for the civilizations, because that's something that Breath of the Wild's cities or whatever badly needed, was more lore behind each of the places you visited. And that armor and the tradition behind it was really fascinating to me. And it also had the final effect of making the Zora champion Mipha, who I didn't give a shit about before, because I didn't give a shit about any of them. At the very least, that armor and the story behind it made her more tragic and compelling. Yeah. Not that it made her well written, but it was the one moment in Breath of the Wild where I thought, okay, it's finally all coming together how an open world Zelda can be compelling and rewarding.
Yeah, I didn't know that about the Zora women.
Oh, really? Well, I mean,
That's
during
nice.
the Lionel quest, at least, that old man is like,
Yeah.
show me proof that.
Oh, that's right. I remember that she made it for you, but I didn't know that about the wedding thing, or I've forgotten about it. That is really neat. I didn't notice that quite as much. And if I remember correctly, you were saying that you donned this armor pretty much for the rest of the game and the end of the game because of that like symbolism.
I did, because fuck Zelda. And I was like, the anime part of me was very naively hoping that the champions would come back and that Mipha would see my armor and be like, oh, you love me, let's get married and have horrible abomination children.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't wear that armor that much. I was also very disappointed that other places didn't give you interesting armor with like movement abilities or anything.
Yeah.
So, like we both got that lightning helmet.
Oh, the lightning helmet. That was a good. I like that helmet.
Yeah, that was really cool. So then I was gonna do all the quests in the Zora area because I was like, oh, they gotta give me a cool thing too if I do all their quests.
Yeah.
No.
No. How about something that makes you like not slide down fucking walls when it's raining? That'd be great.
Oh, that would have been amazing. Gosh, Casey, these design ideas.
I just want to like say, I mean, do you have anything else to comment on with that?
No.
I just want to say like the Zora armor made me, because I have always had doubts on the overall like enjoyment of, I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. I've always had doubts that an open world Zelda game could work, considering like Twilight Princess, a very linear Zelda game, is my favorite.
Yeah.
But like that Zora armor and everything that came with it, like, was the one moment where I was like, this can work. I understand now. Please continue with it.
Yeah.
And they did.
Yeah. So my number one part, like, moment in this game, it is a moment,
Right.
was even earlier in the game.
Oh shit. Okay.
It was gliding off the tutorial plateau.
And seeing everything around.
Yeah, it was like that tutorial was so good, and the way that they introduced concepts was so good, like that you had to eat a certain thing to go to a certain place in this game, and you had to use the open world environment to your like advantage and stuff, and there was a lot of stuff to explore, and everything was useful in that area because
once again, lo and behold, it's a controlled environment.
Exactly. It was a really well-designed, controlled environment. And the way that everything was set up, it felt like everything would gradually work out like the tutorial area, but on a grander scale. Like, I'd have to learn this new thing to get to this new place. And it'd have to be kind of systematic or whatever.
Yeah.
But there was little of that in the rest of the game. But basically, the gliding off the tutorial was just like the promise of more of what just happened in the tutorial.
Yeah.
And that there was so, like, the vastness of the place and how, like, gorgeous it was.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the other game that, like, had something very similar to that, where you become free and you suddenly see all this possibility before you.
Yeah. I feel there's probably a number of games that do that, but I can't think of any good examples.
Yeah, I just feel like there's one you and I played recently that did that. Well, but I know what you mean.
Yeah.
It really was beautiful.
Yeah, and like I really like the glider in general, so it was cool just jumping off of that thing.
Yeah. Oh god, that fucking glider. It's best item in Wind Waker, and lo and behold, it has made a return.
Yeah. So it was really the beginning of the game that was the best part of the game for me, but that was the moment that it was like at its highest point where I was like super duper hype. And everything in the beginning I thought was like really well like paced or whatever, the way that I went through things and went straight to Kakariko pretty much.
Yeah, it would definitely be in like my top at least 10 tutorials. Like it was that It was that like brilliantly made.
Yeah, like you could get, I mean, you could get the that cold tunic or whatever, cold resistant tunic, by going up
Yes.
to the top of a mountain and just meeting with that guy, and he's like, "Oh, you must want one of these." Or you could also make him some food and learn a recipe and get the same item.
Yeah, or even just eat some fucking peppers.
Yeah, you
Like,
could eat
'cause
some
I
peppers
think
and
they're.
just not even do it.
Yeah,
And
that was so good.
it was almost similar when you had to go into the Goron area because like heat resistance didn't cut it.
Oh. Yeah, let's enjoy suddenly combusting into a flame.
So I really liked that area. That was one of like, oh, I'll tell you some honorable mentions of things that I liked that didn't come in this like little section here. Exploring that like Mountain Cannon area.
Yes.
You had to
yes.
use a whole bunch of mechanics, and then using the cannons was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was.
Like
It
breaking
really
stuff up and like the little puzzles that were involved with that.
That actually probably killed me more than any other area, just because I kept like missing a cannon,
Oh,
and there's so many enemies that just will fuck you up if you don't blast them to hell.
yeah. Also, one other thing that almost got on my list was getting back at like these walking guardians that were near Kakariko Village. So,
Right.
like, if you, I forget which way you have to go. It's like on the mountain behind Kakariko Village. I was just kind of exploring, and then those fucking walking guardians just wrecked me so hard, and I was like, fuck, well, I can't go over there. And as soon as
Yeah,
I got like that ability, Urbosa's Fury, I went back there and wrecked him.
Yeah. Nice.
And it just felt good, you know? Like, I knew I was getting stronger or whatever. Alright then, Casey, what's your number one worst aspect moment of this game?
Oh boy, I love this part. So, just a quick little note. Before this last part, before this fucking number one worst, I was going to give Breath of the Wild an 8.5 out of 10 if I was going to give it a numbered score.
8.5, that's a 4.25 in
Sure, why not?
a 5 scale for the top 5. Okay, go ahead.
Well, honestly, more like I was going to give it like an 80 or a B, but whatever.
Yeah.
This fucking part brought it down to a 7.5.
Damn.
That damn bad.
Wow. Shit. Okay.
And the worst part of the game for me is the last half hour of it.
Is this the full like actual Ganon fight and then the like hog Ganon fight thing?
And the credits. And what happened after the credits.
Okay. Okay, yeah. Go for it, Casey.
I couldn't even believe it. Like, going into that Ganon fight. So, 75% of this fucking game was in aid of freeing the divine beasts and their fucking champions or whatever so that they could help you fight Ganon, right?
Yeah.
And I did that. And do you want to know what they did exactly to help me fight?
I think I know what they did, but I want you to tell me.
They shot a 4-way fuck-off laser beam that in the end was in the aid of reducing Ganon's life bar by half.
Yeah, I didn't like that either.
What the fuck was the fucking point?
Yeah, part of me is like, I wish I could just do this fight normal.
Yeah. Well, and I will say this. I know for a fact that if you opt to not free any of the divine beasts, before you fight Ganon, you have to fight his 4 blights.
Yeah, it's like a boss rush.
Yes, but that's if you don't do it.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't you do it? Unless you were just trying to do this stupid fucking speedrun bullshit.
Yeah.
So, this whole thing that they've been building up 2 things in this whole game. 1, that you have to get stronger, right?
Yeah.
And 2, that you have to free these super weapons because they were necessary to help weaken Ganon for you.
Yes.
And you did that, and in the end, that was all you did was break his his health bar down by half.
Yeah, I wish that it did something else. I don't know what, but it didn't feel great to me when that happened.
Well, and here's what I don't understand. Like, and they could have done something else. They could have made it so that, I don't know, the Ganon summons, like, fucking effects onto the field that the Divine Beast can counter. Like, oh, rain so you can't climb walls, and when he turns into a chameleon or something.
Oh, yeah.
Or they could have made it so that some of Ganon's, like, notably harder to dodge attacks were blocked, even partially, by the Divine Beasts. Or they could have made it so that based on the Divine Beasts that you freed, like, if there was, like, a platform, well, not platforming, but, like, if Ganon had, like, attacks that consumed, like, 80% of the room, and you had to, like, dodge it in a specific way, freeing more Divine Beasts opened up more, like, safe points for you.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just, there's so much they could have done. And in the end, all they did was knock his health bar down by half, which, guess what, is a pretty thankless task, because the fight with Ganondorf himself is already so fucking pathetic and easy to break, that it doesn't even matter that half his life bar is gone.
Yeah. The only part that kind of got me was, at some point, he becomes immune to a lot of damage unless you hit him right after he tries to hit you, or you do one of those dodge things and hit him.
Right. And that was the only, like, slightly difficult part. I mean, it's easy to manipulate once you realize you have the ability to slow down time.
Yeah.
I
never did that. I actually just timed my attacks.
That's very impressive. Let me tell you how my fight with Ganondorf went, okay?
Go for it.
So I go in there. I've got my Master Sword. I got my best armor. I got all of the champion's abilities ready and raring to go at full stock, right?
Yeah.
So the health bar gets reduced by half. And I decide I'm going to start with Barbossa's Fury. And guess what? Not only does it very badly hurt him, it also stun locks him and leaves him completely open to a severe wailing by you.
Yeah.
Now multiply that by 3 because I had 3 of those lightning things.
Yeah.
And then after that, use the fucking magical decahedron shield of the Goron people, which again, not only protects you from Ganon, but hurts him when you block with it, and stun locks him, opening him up for a beatdown again. By the time I had used all of these two tricks, Ganon was down to 1/8 of his life.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe.
Yeah,
like, after that fight, I had to pause the game because I was so stunned at how bad that was.
Yeah.
And as if that's not bad enough, somehow the final form is even more pathetic.
Yeah, that was the worst part for me, easily. And I saw a video where I suspected he wasn't even aiming at me, but he doesn't even try and hurt you at all.
No, he doesn't. He has one move that you would have to be blind, deaf, and having a stroke in order to get hit by.
Yeah.
And I beat him. I beat the final form. I beat the final form in 1.5 minutes following his reveal.
Yep.
But there's one thing about that final fight, about this broke-ass attempt at a Shadow of Colossus fight, that really just completely, like, stunned me and hurt me deep down.
What was it?
Zelda gives you a bow, and you have to use this bow to beat him.
Uh-huh.
A massive portion of this game's meta has been making yourself stronger by acquiring better items and then leveraging those better items and managing them because they will break.
Yeah.
You spend this whole time trying to get the best equipment and making sure that you use it wisely so that it doesn't break, so that you can be ready for this fight and ready to use everything you've got. And they completely, in one fell swoop, destroy all of that effort. because you were given a specific weapon that you have to use like any other Zelda game.
I had a similar, like, realization when I got into that fight, because I was saving my, I think it was, like, 5 arrows, and they all did, like, 40 or 50 damage.
Yeah.
Like, bow. It was, like, an OP as fuck bow.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I'm gonna save this for Ganon. So then I took out Ganon, like, with a few of those shots and some other stuff. But then, like, I get that light bow, and I was like, no, fuck it, I want to use this other one. And it didn't do damage.
It's unbelievable. Like, and it's not like the Zelda series is immune to that sort of bullshit, because the light arrows have been a necessary item in Ocarina of Time, in Wind Waker.
Yeah.
Not so much in Twilight Princess, but even back Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, you can't fucking beat Final Form or Ganon without like silver arrows or whatever that you just have to find.
Yeah.
But the thing is, all those games conditioned you to know that you needed to get something specific to beat an enemy. Like, you knew that Ganon was probably going to require an item to beat him. You didn't know that was going to happen in this. There was no reason for you to think that that's what you would need, that was going to happen in this. Every other fight in the game has been all about do it your way and use your stuff that you have found and use it wisely. And then it's just like, no, fuck everything that you've been hoarding. Just use this bow.
Yeah, it was just like a super scripted fight, and it was totally the opposite of the rest of the game, where it was up to you, really.
And maybe that'd be forgivable if it was in any way difficult, but he stands still and blindly fires a laser. He doesn't even turn around when you circle around him.
Yep. Yeah, that was bad.
And just to cap off the entirety of this, the ending, including after the fight, all the way to the after credit scene, is not only the worst Zelda ending I've ever seen, it's one of the worst endings to any game I've ever witnessed, period.
Really?
It just ends. Like, Zelda's freed, Ganon dies, and it just ends with little fanfare. Begin the credits.
Yeah.
And the credits don't show anything. Previous Zelda game credits showcase glimpses of a world that's happier and free from the darkness.
Oh, yeah, and this is just like things that you'd seen.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was just images of what happened.
Yep. Yeah.
And then a final scene where, again, no sense of real closure, just let's continue on while ghosts wave goodbye at us and we don't even acknowledge it.
Yeah. Yeah, like I see that. I didn't care for the story at all, so then, like, I wasn't terribly disappointed with the ending, just because I had pretty low expectations.
Yeah, but, like, Jesus Christ, even Ocarina, like, even previous Zelda games at least gave you some kind of closure.
Yeah.
They don't even show, like, the towns that you visited throughout this game, like, building themselves up. You'd think they would at least show the descendants of the champions growing into bigger, better people.
Yeah.
But they didn't. Like, yeah, that ending, the last thing I've got to say about it, that ending is the epitome of the was that it feeling.
Oh, yeah. I know what you mean.
It just, it completely, like, soured the entire thing for me.
Dang, I'm sorry to hear that, Casey.
It's just, I mean, that's what it is. Like, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah. Well, my worst moment for this game is kind of like a almost a bittersweet one, because it's like kind of positive but mostly like kind of negative too. So we've been talking about how the story was really hinged upon like me wanting to get stronger for Zelda and all that.
Right.
The worst moment in the game was when I realized that I could beat Ganon right now.
Oh, God, I know, right?
Because then, like, I still had things that I kind of wanted to do. Like, I kind of wanted to get more shrines. I kind of wanted to, like, explore some parts of the map that I hadn't seen. But it, like, I tried to do some of that. I tried to get some more shrines, and I was like, no, this is just, like, just time-wasty stuff. Like, it was all, like, super easy puzzles, and I didn't give a shit because I didn't need it. I knew I didn't need it.
Yeah.
So I lost the sense to explore because I did all the beasts or whatever, and I was like, oh yeah, I can definitely do this. I have a horde of nice weapons or whatever. It's gonna be easy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of a weird little thing. One thing that we didn't talk about that I'd like to talk about real fast.
Well, can I just point out one thing about your thing?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that, like, I get the theme they were going with trying to make yourself get stronger, and there's an urgency to it.
Yeah.
I don't think they did that really well. Like, I'm really surprised that there wasn't actually, like, a tangible punishment for dicking around too much.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how they could have done that well.
Well, I was thinking that they could have done, like every 20-hour interval that you don't fight Ganon, he gets, like, slightly stronger.
Oh, that would be kind of neat. Some risk-reward kind of stuff.
Yeah, or maybe even the path to getting to him gets more circuitous and difficult the longer you wait, because his power is building, and it's manifesting as growing tendrils or whatever across the castle.
Yeah. I think that would be a good way to do things, where, like, maybe the divine beasts help you out with Ganon somehow, but he has more time to get recruits and whatever.
Yeah.
His defense is up.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool. Because it, like, playing the game makes it almost a little too easy at the end.
A little.
Yeah. So, we didn't really talk about this all that much, but I figured we should touch it.
Right, let's finish off Breath of the Wild with everything that we want to discuss real quick.
Yeah, weapon degradation. A lot of people didn't like this so much. And I, for one, think that the game made you switch weapons too much. Like, the weapons degraded too fast.
Yeah.
I think that they could have balanced it a little bit better, where things lasted a little bit longer. Maybe you got a little fewer weapons, or maybe like the Master Sword really just didn't break, but you could find better weapons, so they'd be just situational or something like that. And up until
the Master Sword was in effect a glow stick that just ran out of glow after you used it too much.
Yeah, that it was so weird. Like, I don't know, I didn't like that at all.
Yeah.
It turned into like the thing that I would use just to not waste my other weapons.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it wasn't really the Master Sword. It was just whatever.
It was the unbreaking sword.
Yeah. It was the sword that I could waste so I didn't have to get rid of my 40 plus damage weapons.
I like how there are swords that are quite literally stronger than it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's so, like, bizarre to me. Like, this is the Bane. This is the Sword of Evil's Bane. And it's weaker than a Black Knight's, like, blade.
Yeah, I'd be fine with it if, like, the Master Sword didn't have to lose its charge or whatever they say, but you could find better weapons, but they would break, or, you know, they're slower to swing or something like that, have different mechanics.
Yeah.
I don't know. How do you feel about the weapon degradation system?
I mean, a lot of people say that it wasn't well designed. I mean, I think the game was designed around it. It's not a decision I would have gone with, because I don't, as you know, I enjoy the stay of an item in Zelda more than the idea of, like, losing it after a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And that might, like, the thing that bothers me is why, like, Dark Souls has degradable items, but they don't break on you. They just get weaker, and then you have to reinforce them to make them stronger again.
Yeah, that would be a fun thing to do, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and I could see, like, lower level weapons breaking, you know, like a tree branch, what the fuck ever. But, like, an iron sword doesn't just shatter into the ether.
Yeah. And like I mentioned a little bit earlier, this sort of system, or just the way that things broke so quickly, and you couldn't repair them. Like, it'd be a different thing if you could repair some of these. But it basically encouraged me not to fight encampments or whatever, like those groups of bogoblins. I think
that might be the thing. Like, you hear how the developers intended it to be a certain way, and that's the argument everyone makes.
Yeah.
And that's probably true. I'll give you that. But the fact is, the intended desire is not what actually happened, because more than enough people have experienced the hoarding syndrome where clearly that's not what they wanted, and they failed to do what they wanted people to experience.
Yeah. And I have one last question, or one thing to think about for this podcast, if you will indulge me.
Since it's like the last thing to think about, can I ask a couple of mine real quick?
Sure.
What'd you think about the music and/or lack thereof?
I liked a few of the tunes, and I didn't mind that it wasn't everywhere, because one thing that I didn't like about The Witcher was, I mean, it had pretty good music, but it was just all the time.
Yeah.
And it got really repetitive, especially if you spend a lot of time in like one space or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm A-okay with it. And like there was like this one I don't know, piano lick thing that would come up that was kind of dissonant and like really punctuated, like short little pieces or whatever. It was pretty cool near Hatno Village if you went down to the sea. It happened in a few other places, but I like that little tune.
Oh wow. Okay, I don't remember that. I'll have to check that out. I'm not a fan of minimalistic soundtracks. Like I get that they're trying to go for like that, like you're in nature kind of thing, and listen to the birds and the bees fucking all that.
Yeah.
M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
But I just wish that there was a bit more of a musical presence. I mean, I'm not saying that I want like bombastic soundtrack, but I think that there could have at least been like, I mean, I don't know. I think you'd agree with me. There are certain instruments that lend themselves to certain environments better than others.
Oh yeah.
Like it's a shame that they in what I remind you is supposed to be a massive like sort of eclectic world of different environments coming together. It's a shame that there wasn't a soundtrack that kind of lent to that a bit more.
Yeah, I think that they could have done more differentiating the different environments. And I can see how they could have done a really good job of making really simple tunes. Like, I think Nintendo's has always done a good job at making, like, simple tunes that you don't really get tired of.
Yeah.
Better than most other companies that I've ever, played.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I mean, that's
your thing?
Yep.
That's your stick? All right, Casey, what do you want to see coming out of this next Zelda game? The inevitable next one. You want to see a complete return to form? You want to see them take a few notes from Breath of the Wild?
I think there are things to smartly take from Breath of the Wild. I mean, I do, as I said with the Hyrule castle thing, I do think the idea of a bit more explorative dungeons is certainly an interesting one. You can't make them so easy to bypass as it was in this, but I think that's a smart idea. I think, you know what? Fuck it. I don't like this kind of Zelda. I want to return to form.
Yeah.
If you want to bring like a little bit more open worldedness to it, fine. If you want to bring back the verticality, fine. But this didn't feel like a Zelda to me. It felt like Nintendo trying to be an open world game, which it made, and it beat out a lot of other open world games. But I'm one of those people who never had much of a problem with the old Zelda formula, and it scares me to all hell that this is now the new Zelda formula.
Well, I'd be surprised if they kept going with the open world format, but I do think that what they could do is take a few notes from what they did really well, like that Eventide Island thing or the tutorial area, where they could
controlled environments.
Yeah, exactly. Have like big open world sections that you can control, but they are linear in that you go to this big open world section first. You have to get so many items or abilities in that section before you can beat it. You go on to another section, you build on those same principles, and you gain a few new ones, and then you go to a new big section. I think that would be really excellent.
Yeah, it's almost in a way, it's almost like Zelda needs to borrow from like old 3D Mario's, because I mean that's a largely guided experience, but every area, like every world you go into, is a pretty big one to just sort of roam around and find shit.
Yeah.
I do, like. Also, I mean, honestly, if they could do what I thought they were going to do with the Zora armor, if they could just like make, or like the spinner from Twilight Princess, where there's like such a potential to open up exploration. Like, I really hope they don't like give you everything at the start again, because I understand why they did that, but I don't know. Part of the fun of Zelda has always been like exploring dungeons and even like certain parts of overworlds.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, you can do that in Breath of the Wild, but I like, as counterintuitive as this may sound, I like seeing a wall in front of me that I have to come back to later because of something cool I find.
Yeah, that would be a neat little thing if they turned Zelda into a Metroidvania for one game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it'd give it more direction in the open world context.
If I really hope for anything, I just want dungeons and items back. You know what? You want to keep all this other shit? Go right ahead. Probably, you could probably cut off about half of Breath of the Wild and still have a really good game. Probably a much more tight, focused game.
Yeah.
But I think that's the thing. Like, cut this thing off by half. Pepper it with some of what made original Zelda so compelling, and isolate more instances throughout the game, and you'd have a pretty strong formula.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a pretty good final word there, Casey.
Yes.
Thank you for listening to episode 9 of the Top 5 Gaming Podcast. Let us know what you think. Like, subscribe, give us some comments, ask us if you have an idea for a top 5 that you want to see. We'd love to do it.
Also, what were your top and bottoms?
Yeah, what were your top and bottoms? We're interested in you.
Oh yeah, really.
All right, talk to you later.
Earth Angel, Earth Angel.